Hi, my name is Shiraz Balolia and I'm the president of Grizzly Industrial. Welcome to my office. I grew up in Kenya. I was born in Kenya, on an island, Mombasa. It was a tropical climate, little town a coastal town right on the water. So great beaches, good seafood. It was really good life. So my father was originally from India, and then he was an accountant. He moved to Kenya and he met my mother, and they had 4 kids, and I'm the youngest of the 4. Yeah, my first job was actually in Nairobi, right out of high school, and I was a costing clerk. I knew a little bit of accounting, not by teaching, but by practice from my father. And I guess I'm good with numbers, so I was costing all the goods that came in for a big hardware company, importer. Well, I always knew that I wanted to do something big. I kept telling my family members that, someday I'm going to be a millionaire, but didn't know how. It's always something I wanted to do, and eventually I found my calling. Everybody moved out of Kenya because the political climate wasn't that great, so we had to find a new country, a Western country to move to, and we picked North America. Well, it all started at a pistol range. I didn't have much money, but I bought a $35 pistol and a $2 box of ammo and went to the range. And I was sitting down trying to hit the target, and I couldn't hit the target at all. And here there was a guy next to me. His name was Wolf Heidemann. He's a German fellow, and he was shooting offhand with a pistol and hitting the target really well. And he looked down at me, and he knew I was in some sort of a trouble. So he came over, introduced himself, asked me where I was from, and made small talk, and then asked me about the pistol, and basically showed me how to aim with a pistol, how to line up the sights. And I was on paper, and so it was a pleasant first encounter. We talked about the cost of ammunition being so expensive, and he did reloading at home, so he asked me to come over to his house. He would show me how he did reloading to save money on ammunition. So that night we went, my wife and I went to his house with my little son. And while the ladies were talking with their kids, him and I went down in the basement. And as we entered the basement, I see this machine sitting there. And I asked him, "What's that?" And he says, "It's a lathe." I said, "What's a lathe?" And he says, I can cut screws with it, I can make bushings with it. I'm a gunsmith, so I can make thread barrels and do the chambering on the lathe. And so right away, I had to have a lathe, but I didn't have any money. So every time I went out and looked for a used lathe, it was sold on the paper, in the local buy and sell paper. So that told me, if I could get to those lathes ahead of time and maybe buy one, fix it up and sell it, I could save up enough money to have a lathe for myself. But I didn't have any money to even buy the initial lathe. So I borrowed some money from my sister, $500, and started doing that. I'd be first on site, buy the lathe, fix it up. And in the process, I started to learn how to fix machines, broken gears, burnt out motors, switches, beds and things like that. So I got good at fixing machinery at the same time, and I would sell these machines, and for a little bit of profit, didn't have to make much, $20, $30, $40, and I'd add to the pot. And pretty soon I gave my sister her money back within a couple months, and had enough money. But instead of buying a lathe for myself, now I had a taste that I could actually make money doing this. So I kept doing what I was doing, but I had more requests from people for new machines, for other types of machines, and that was the start of what eventually became a very large business. So I was buying these used machines, and I was getting requests for newer machines or new machines, different types of machines, and so I became a dealer for one of the companies, and started buying drill presses because there was a lot of requests for drill presses, and I didn't have space where I was at, but right next door there was a barber shop. And behind the barber shop, there was some space that he had. So I rented the space behind the barber shop, cut out a big door in the back, paid for all that, made a little ramp, and I was storing my drill presses and little machines there so that I could serve the customers. So I didn't even have a warehouse. I mean, it was all one-man show. Well, I wasn't greedy. My very first drill press sale, I only made $6 on. And the guy said that he didn't have anywhere to take it home, and would I deliver it across town, which I did at no extra charge. And when I got there, he said he had a bad back. So I had to clean the machine up for him and pick it up and put it on the bench for him. And when I was driving away, I didn't think that I was taken advantage of. I thought at that point that I had $6 more in my pocket than I had that morning. That's how I thought about business. Yeah, so I had a old VW van, which was now known as the hippie van. And I used to go pick up, drill presses became popular because I was selling them so cheap. And I used to pick up 10 drill presses at a time. Now these are 150-pound drill presses. Now those vans are not made to carry more than 400 or 500 pounds of stuff, and I've got almost 2,000 pounds of drill presses. So I was almost scraping the bottom of the road with that drill press, but I drove slowly and brought them back to the warehouse, and there it was. That's how we did things. Then one day I go into this supplier's warehouse to pick up some drill presses, and he said he can't sell them to me anymore because the other dealers are complaining I was selling it too cheap, selling my machines too cheap, their machines too cheap. So I've been cut off from supply, and now what to do? So I didn't give up. I started looking for suppliers. Remember, there was no internet back then. So how do you look for suppliers? You have no access to any information. So I started going from dealer to dealer to dealer, asking for brochures for different products, hoping that one of those brochures will have the address, name and address of a factory in Taiwan. And sure enough, there was a name and address of a factory, and I contacted them and started ordering product directly from them. I was getting more and more questions about the metalworking machines. Now, I knew how to repair them. I knew how to fix, self-taught how to fix them, but I didn't know all the technical details. So I went out and took a machine shop course at night. So I took a machine shop course and was able to have the language and how the speeds and know a little bit about running the machines. And then I transitioned into milling machines and started selling a lot of metalworking machines, different types of metalworking machines. Customer would come in and ask me for different things. I remember the first time a customer came in and asked me for a planer. And I said, what is a planer? And he says, well, planer, for planing wood. I said, oh, really? You mean those handheld things? He said, no, it's a machine. You put a piece of wood inside and it, planes it. There's blades, cutter head. So no computers. So I went to other dealers to find out what planers were and how they worked and so on. And so I said, okay, this is different than metalworking. And there's other machines in woodworking. So I need to take a course. So I took a night course of woodworking from this technical college. And so then I became familiar with woodworking machines, and I said, woodworking is so easy compared to metalworking. It's nothing. And so that was a start in the woodworking business. And then I took the planer sample. I was the very first guy here from North America to send a planer sample to Taiwan. Now all the planers come from Taiwan. Eventually, when I started Grizzly Industrial, or back then it was known as Grizzly Imports, I opened my store. I rented some space on Meridian Street, and it was basically a concrete box, the warehouse was, so there was no insulation. So in the wintertime, it was very cold. But we built offices. I helped. There was two guys and myself. We actually built the offices, not large offices, just about 4 or 5 offices. And that's where we started doing business from. I was at that time thinking big. You know, when I went to IBM for a computer, there were no PCs as such. There was PCs that just come out, but I didn't know how to run that. So my very first employee was a lady by the name of Shirley, who was very good with computers, and I knew that system. And so she ran that computer, and I was the guy that did everything else, including cleaning the bathrooms. So I was the guy on the phone when the customer called. I was the tech. I was the guy that shipped the product. I was the guy that unloaded containers. I was the guy that did the bookkeeping. I went to the bank. I did every single thing that was required. Yes, business took off because my goal was to serve customers like myself. Because when I went out and looked for a product, it was too expensive because it went through several distribution channels. The manufacturer sold it to the distributor sold it to the dealer, and the dealer sold it to the end user. There's 2 people in between, between the manufacturer and the end user. So each one of those levels, they have to support themselves and make money. But the end user is not getting a different product because they're paying more. I saw all these competitors out there that were, in my opinion, they were ripping customers off because their pricing was so high. They dictated the prices that the dealers could sell their product at, and I was buying from the same sources they were, and I knew what they were paying. So I thought the consumer was getting ripped off. I wanted to keep the price low so it's affordable to guys like me that didn't have any money. And so I said, I can undercut this, and I can build my brand and take away business from these guys and probably create some new business, which is how we grew so quickly. Right away, as we started the business in 1983, right away I found out that within a couple of years, we're going to be outgrowing that location. I bought some land, 10 acres here in Bellingham, and started plans to build our headquarters, which is this where we're sitting. So we've been here since 1987, I think. And even though we had envisioned we would need more than what we had back then, we're past that because of the number of machines that we have, the choices. And a lot of these choices of machines come from customer requests. So we have the largest choice of machinery under one brand in the whole United States. Our customers range from the small shop in the basement to the serious shop in the home to a cabinet maker to a small machine shop to big commercial companies like Ford and Boeing and all these other big conglomerates. Our goal was you come to us and whatever flavor you want, we have. And that really works well for us. The Pennsylvania warehouse was opened in 1987. The company was opened in 1983, founded in 1983 here in Bellingham, which is on the West Coast. What we didn't realize was the majority of the population is on the East Coast, and so we were shipping machinery all the way across the country, and there was a lot of damage taking place, plus the cost of shipping was very high. And so the best thing to do was to open something on the East Coast, and I found Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which was a smaller town, lots of churches and a lot of good people, and bought a building there and started our Pennsylvania facility. The plan was to make it easy for customers to buy from us because we wanted them to get machines quickly and cheaply. I mean, not very expensive for shipment. And then use the Mississippi River as a dividing line for shipments. So anything east of the Mississippi was shipped from Williamsport, and everything west of the Mississippi was shipped from here. Eventually, we decided that we needed a third warehouse, and opened a Springfield, Missouri warehouse, which has about 500,000 square feet of space right now. Well, we found that we're getting a lot of customers asking for different things, and we knew that we had a larger market share available to us. But given the facility we had, we were not able to handle extra growth. You know, you want to grow so that you can fill the demand, but not grow out of business because you're all helter-skelter at the base here. So we planned to open the facilities, and when we opened our Springfield facility, we knew now we could open the doors to more marketing and get more business in, which we did. And so it grew, that we got the exponential growth from that. That's grown and grown into being our major distribution center. We own 55 acres of land there, so we've got plenty of room for growth, for adding more space if we want to. So if somebody ordered from us from, say, New York, they'd have the machine in 2 days, and the cost of freight would be very little, and the chances of damage would be very little as well, freight damage en route to them. So it's worked out really well for us having these hubs, and eventually we closed down the Pennsylvania facility because there was some redundancy there, and the cost of bringing containers to Pennsylvania versus Springfield was too expensive. So, and we expanded our Springfield, Missouri facility. You know, we had everything planned out very well, and our management staff went to the different facilities, and they trained the new people, and we even transferred some people that already were well trained to these locations, and were able to continue the business and grow and have like our call center is in Springfield, Missouri, and it's a very large call center, and all the people are trained there very well. We've got several managers there. Some of the managers came from Pennsylvania, and so we have managers there. Well, there's 2 managers from Pennsylvania that have been with the company 32 years. I mean, that's a long time, and they're still young. Back in the early 90s when internet started, there was this, AOL was pretty big, and I personally thought AOL was the internet because I didn't know anything about the internet. But then as soon as I started learning about this and the .com era, I said, this is where the future is going to be. Information is going to be very easily accessible, and there's only one .com. You can have the .org and the .net, but the .com is where everything is. And so I started buying domain names, and eventually ended up with grizzly.com as well as part of our domain names. We own over 300 URLs. We own planers.com, dustcollectors.com, et cetera, et cetera. Everything basically in our industry we own. And so we are able to make good use of it. So we were kind of ahead of the curve and staying ahead. We needed to stay ahead. So as soon as we recognized the opportunity that's coming, we knew now where this is going to go and where internet's going to go. So we had to build a base for it, and we've got a very large IT department with some very sophisticated programmers, software engineers working for us. And we have a great website, as you've seen, grizzly.com, and there's only one grizzly.com. That's it. It's an incredible experience with customers because they can have access to all the information. We put out a pretty nice catalog, and but there's only so much you can say about a machine on a particular page. You don't, these things are expensive to print, so you don't really want 3 pages for one machine in details. But even though we have all this, a customer can go on the internet on this machine and check the manual out, check the parts list out. We put all our manuals online. And speaking of parts, we have the largest parts department in the machinery and tool industry. We keep most of the parts in stock and we ship them out the same day. So it's very convenient for the customer to get a part if they have a breakdown. For the customer, the experience is amazing. They have access to so much information instantly. And it's good because they can make a decision right away and buy the product right away. Well, our customers are the reason we're here today. And we try to treat customers the way we would like to be treated. A situation comes up that doesn't seem fair for the customer in any respect. It gets resolved regardless of what the situation may be, because the customer has spent money with us and they need to be happy. You can't have an unhappy customer. We have over 3 million customers, and over the years, many of them have been very loyal customers to our company and have helped our company grow. And so we are very loyal to them as well. The goal being that for the consumer, for the customer, doesn't matter if the price is low. Just because you paid less for it doesn't mean you should get a lesser quality. You need to get a good quality. You expect a good quality. It doesn't matter. Everybody likes pay a good price, a reasonable price for a product. Just because you're paying more doesn't mean you're getting better quality. We have a very good quality control department, both in Taiwan, China, and here. We got several engineers on staff here. We got techs that have been with the company for over 30 years. The quality of our manuals has won awards. They're very in-depth and detailed manuals, as they should be for machinery. And I see a lot of companies out there that really don't adhere to those standards, but we don't care. This is our standard. Well, it's pretty interesting because a lot of the manufacturers in Taiwan, the owners of the factories were small like we were initially. And so as we grew, they grew, and today some of them are public companies, but the owners and presidents of those companies are all personal friends of mine. And the relationships we have, I named some of their children when they were born and so on. Yeah, it's a great relationship. And so anything we want done, any issue comes up, it's solved very quickly. And of course, we get favorable pricing. We have some factories that only make for us. 100% of their production is made for Grizzly. And so, you won't find the same machine being sold by somebody else. Our quality control is very deep on all the machines, regardless of what the machine is. We're always looking forward, looking for the next thing. How can you expand? How can we make the consumer? What does the consumer want? That you need to please the consumer. And how is the market reacting? You need to react to the marketplace, because you got Amazon, you got some of these big companies out there that are now starting to sell. They can't do what we do because this is not an easy business. There's a lot of moving parts in a machinery business like us, especially a direct-to-consumer machinery business. They've tried it, they couldn't do it. We're just keep expanding our lines. We've gone into CNC routers and CNC machines. But that doesn't mean the manual machines are going to go away. That's always going to remain. That's our base. And so we'll cater to a wider audience, and we'll just grow and just continue to give the consumer what they want. I think just expanding the product line is something that for the consumer is going to be very good. The prices are very, very competitive, and it's easy for the consumer to check pricing out nowadays. You can stand in a store and look up online on your cell phone to see what everybody else is selling for. So for the consumer, this is the best time ever as far as buying, because they can get the best price and best choices and be able to see all that very quickly. From our point, we're able to satisfy those goals easily because that's our model. That's what we did. That we wanted to bring a good quality product, good choice at a low price. That's what we do. From Shiraz Balolia and the Grizzly team, thank you for watching this video. We really appreciate your business.